that Echo was, but it's not going to matter. Kirk on the flank finds it down onto one. Riot's already down, so it's a technical 1 versus 2. And Bri just swung to his death. Quizler on the top floor will look to retrieve their teammates, but Kirk can find the timing and clutch it out. An ace for Kirk.
But Spider still gets a kill, and then Extra not ready for in the corner, but oh my goodness, he gets the kill anyways! He gets the kill, Teddy left alive. He doesn't yet again for Mirage! He's low on health, especially when the Vulcan canisters are in play, but now Ambi low as well, but he takes the kill anyways! He's still left, but with 15 seconds and not too much intel as to where they are, it's not looking great for him, but he's just got the isolated frag on aim key, and the last one's left in Freezer. This could be a very easy pick to find if he just looks in the right corners with the shotgun as well. He'll be lethal in the close range. A 1-on-2 for the Gridlock.
Hello everybody and welcome to the start of XGS Season 7, brought to you by your boy T-Van and Goose. We gotta go to desk today, Goose. How are we feeling over there?
I'm feeling great. A brand new start, and it's us to open you guys to Season 7. A lot of new changes throughout everything for this brand new season of Rainbow Six Siege. I'm excited. And we even got, the whole T3 amateur roster shuffle, so I'm going to be seeing a lot of different teams, a lot of players who haven't played with each other yet. Just a bunch of new stuff coming in.
Oh, I cannot wait, especially off the heels of BGS and Element just barely finishing up. We're starting to go on that roller coaster of, like you were saying, a lot of roster changes. I see Twitter posts every single day of looking for one, and it's up to seeing if these fresh rosters can compete against the rosters that have had success. And I'm kind of pumped about that, and I think that leads me to say, let's kind of look at the format that we're seeing here in XGS. What do you think, Goose?
Yeah, you got a brand new single round robin with 2 groups. Both games that we'll be covering in the very first 2 games me and you will be covering will be a Group A game. And if you look at the overall standing, 7 teams, the bottom 2 teams are eliminated, and then the 5th and 4th seeds go into the play-in. And if you're able to really push yourself into the upper echelon, get yourself into the top 3, you solidify and send yourself all the way straight through playoffs, skipping the play-in.
I mean, look at these names, man. And that's only Group A. Looking at Group B, it's so nice just seeing big names coming in and seeing fresh rosters that don't even have like a Wikipedia page, or are just fresh rosters that have like 0 followers on Twitter, seeing them up against big org names and kind of scrapping it out. That's why I love this kind of level of play, right? Is it allows players to make a name for themselves, especially on a stage like XGS, like facing off against potential Element winners, potential Element semi-finalists, people like that. And it's so sick to see just really sweating their butts off to get to the farthest that they can. But speaking of people that have big names, our first game of the day will be OUTLAST versus Fluffy AIMERS.
Don't get mistaken, this is not the LATAM team that OUTLAST recently has picked up. This is going to be their academy team, even though it is a completely different team, at least from what I am familiar with. Going up against Fluffy AIMERS, who showed out in the playoffs for Element 3, most recently winning BGS Season 1. So definitely a hot contending team coming off a lot of success. And, it's a best of 1, so there's always a chance if OUTLAST could potentially find an upset in this matchup.
Yeah, I feel like best of 1s are really where that scrappiness comes from, especially with a fresh roster. And me personally, thinking Fluffy AIMERS just barely got out of a best of 5, so switching it up now, we're seeing the players here of OUTLAST, Swifted, Nexus, Exalt, Acelol, Ollie, I feel like the scrappiness is really going to come out, especially with the way that the maps have been starting to pan out on both the Tier 2, Tier 3 scene, but even Tier 1 sometimes.
Yeah, this OUTLAST roster is that solidified T4, T3 roster. These 5 players have played and been together for about some time, so that familiarity is going to be there. It's going to help them, mesh together very well. That's what, you really need in that, lower amateur scene, is just teams that mesh well together. You do see a lot of pug stacks, but for this roster, it will not be a pug stack. These players, they know each other, they know how each other play, but for the other team, their opponents, it's going to be a little bit of a different story. Fluffy AIMERS, again, coming off of that Season 1 win in BGS. It's going to be JJ Blatt's deity rival, and with officially now 2 new additions being Recited in Amelia, Recited being the newest one being added. This is his first official game under that Fluffy Aimers banner. So we're going to see what he can really do today.
Yeah, and I would even say after the dominant performance of BGS, right? They looked absolutely phenomenal in that best of 5, a 3-1 victory. And I feel like it's this weird thing that happens when you are off of like a big victory like that, where you kind of start to maybe slow down, or that confidence or ego even kind of brings you further down. But maybe Fluffy Aimers are able to bring it up and push themselves further to get to a further part. But I think it's time to look at the bans here, Goose.
Yeah, you know, coming in new, not only with the new format and new players, is going to be Lair. Oregon is no more, but don't worry, we're not going to be seeing Lair being played today. Fluffy Aimers are going to ban it out. It's actually going to be Night Haven Labs to be our map played today, decided by Fluffy Aimers essentially. So Outlast, they're going to be able to choose that defense to start on, and that's a really good side to start on, especially on such a defender-sided map like Night Haven.
Oh my god. And like you mentioned, Oregon being out of the map pool really gives me a breath of fresh air here for the map bans. Like, just looking to see how the bans are now like completely different order than previously, right? Usually you see Oregon kind of make it deep. It's kind of a game of chicken of, ooh, are we gonna play Oregon or are we not? I'm down, are you down? And now like having that off the table, and it's like, okay, who's prepped more with the Lair? Who's gonna use one of their bans for Lair? And we start to see new maps like we see now. Labs coming out, something that's really uncommon, but it seems like Fluffy Aimers loves to see labs.
Oh, they love to see labs. They brought us here, and they most likely knew that Outlast was going to choose the defense first. And this is, you know, a good time to say that we are going back to that 6-6 score line, or split rather. So no more will be the quarter system. So you will have those 6 rounds being played on the defense first. And the last time that Fluffy Aimers actually played this map was in the final for BGS, winning it 7-3. And the split was relatively even, winning 4 attacks and 3 defenses. So this is a map that, you know, Fluffy Aimers really love, especially on attack, which is a little bit, you know, uncertain for a lot of teams.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Having 4 rounds on attack to bring you that win is massive, especially now that we're going back to that 6-6. If you're able to contend that first half when you're not the defending start, like that momentum and keeping up that pressure a little bit and not being forced into a 6-0 or 5-1 split is going to give you a lot of advantages. We're going back to kind of remind ourselves, we're going back to seeing 6-0s, 5-1s, even 4-2s as the goal, right? If you're starting on the attack. So something like Labs, finding that 4-2, but if they're able to contend maybe even a 3-3, this map is going to be very competitive.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's questionable. Again, Outlast also, you know, going through the ban phase, purposely didn't ban it out, so this was a map that they were comfortable leaving up. But not only are you taking a team that on paper is just marginally better than you, but also it's simply just a really good Fluffy Aimers map, and a map that they like, and a map that they actually chose in that BGS Grand Final. So everything on paper, everything in theory, is pointing towards not only a win, but a decisive win against Fluffy Aimers. Again, we talked about bringing in that new player of Recited who did not play in the BGS Grand Final, keep in mind. So again, you know, it's a little bit of a question mark there. There is still lots of opportunity for Outlast to potentially bring out a overthrow in this best of 1.
Especially when it's like you're saying, a BO1, right? If you're able to bring a scrappiness of like what a pub stack really looks like, just playing for the frags, playing super aggressive, not letting Fluffy Aimers play the game that they've been scrimming, that they've been practicing over and over, I think that's where advantages start to seep up from new rosters. Throw them off their game, make them, you know, get uncomfortable. Players and teams that have been together for a while are used to their own setups. They're used to their strats because they're strats that counter specific attacking strategies or counter specific defenses. If you're going into the game not really having those default strats in your book and you're playing your own game, that's going to throw off Fluffy Aimers to a point where maybe you're able to get a round off of them or a map off of them, which in a single stage round robin is absolutely massive.
Yeah, it is really massive. And not only is, you know, just simply getting the round win, but getting it against a team like Fluffy Aimers in a group that is really high contested. Keep in mind, this is a Group A matchup. Outlast still have to potentially play Makers, the reigning Element 3 champions. So if you're able to, pull out, an upset here against Fluffy Aimers, it's going to be all the good. Make the rest of your group stage just that bit easier. But let's actually get into Nighthaven Labs. Dokkaebi will be banned out first. Not too much of a surprise, but Flores coming out. Wouldn't necessarily say it's much of a surprise, but a little bit more unorthodox. You're just removing that capability for the attack to get rid of a lot of that defender utility very easily without having to risk drones or bodies, and also getting rid of Tuberow, just simply making it a little bit easier getting those external walls with that hard breach, not having to worry about tricking it with the Tuberow. It's just going to make Fluffy Aimer's job on that attack, especially now that they're starting on it, a little bit easier. And again, Outlast continuing the theme of just wanting to get rid of any operator that can give a lot of intel to their opponents.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're going to play towards your scrappiness of a brand new roster, taking off those comfort characters or even the characters that make takes easier, and that's going to give them that advantage, especially if you're not going to be playing towards it, right? If they're used to not playing with a Valkyrie, if they're used to not playing with a Dokkaebi, then might as well take it off and play these more, you know, maybe unruly compositions on the defense like we're seeing now. The Oryx and the Tachanka already being picked up in the first round here is, I feel like, is really sick to see, to throw off a team like Fluffy Aimers.
Yeah, it is really sick to see, and I agree that it's going to be, one of those choices where you're simply just trying to give Fluffy Aimers something they're not used to dealing with, trying to throw them off their game. But Fluffy Aimers isn't a team like SSG Academy, isn't a team like Aerial Rise where those faults can perhaps maybe throw a wrench in their entire gears and stop their entire system. Fluffy Aimers is a really good team at problem solving. If there's a problem in front of them, they can not only solve it relatively quickly, but solve it without having to use a lot of utility in time with it. So bringing out this Tachanka and Oryx, I like it. Oryx not as much of, that unorthodox pick. Tachanka also not either, but it's definitely going to be two of those operators that you want to have a good idea around, not just bringing them for the fun of it.
Let's say Fluffy Aimers bringing the Jackal this go around as well as the Deimos, trying to get a lot of that roam control off rip. It's going to be a couple hard breaches off rip though, allowing Resident and Deity to be able to explore the top floor while putting pressure towards the basement. See if they can get them moving and making a slip up, a sound or something like that to be able to set up that roam clear.
And if you look at the site, it's relatively completely clear. Outlast putting a lot of emphasis on defending this top floor, making sure not only that there is a roam, but there is so much defender presence that Fluffy Aimers are essentially really forced to actually address it. And not on top of that, the tank hatch is open, so they can't really go for a direct hit without those defenders rotating back onto the site. But a traded out leaves to an even 4v4.
But that's Jackal doing their job completely well, right? Taking off one of the members, even if it's a 1-for-1, and it's going to be forcing the Tachanka Ace back down to the basement. And so now it's all up to Exalt if he's able to maybe get a little bit more damage down. Still tucked into second floor, and I don't think Fluffy Aimers yet has figured out where he is. IT going to be kind of his place to hide a little bit and wait for his timing to strike. Here comes the target from Deimos, that death mark going down, but he has a mute jammer toggled up towards servers, but they have the information that they need. Rival is going to be the opening swing here, putting the pressure on, some shots going down, but not the specific information that they want to have. There's a lot of question marks going down, and the first going down. It's a beautiful trade there from Fluffy, but now a minute remaining, and they still have to look at the basement.
Yeah, and there's just still so much presence. You have a C4 on the Bandit, all of the canisters on that Tachanka, and another C4 on mute. So much defender utility, and it's been used so usefully, putting Fluffy Aimers into a 2v3 with only 40 seconds left on the clock.
And these are not the operators that you really want to start to really claw yourself into the basement. Ace is the last one to go down, and finally Rival is going to be shut down from Ron, and a beautiful defending start from Outlast.
Yeah, I talked about how Fluffy Aimers is such a great team in problem solving. We saw that with that Oryx being identified, they had all four players push him, whether it be a player on a drone or the two of those players swinging from IT and office, they made sure that they dealt with, even if they had to trade. But the problem with that is that they wasted quite a bit of time, just enough time for those three players on the actual bomb site to rotate over, get those cross angles, the C4 set up. And eventually that back line was able to stun the last three attackers converging onto the bomb site. And it's just Fluffy Amers giving too much time for those players to rotate, giving them a little bit too much respect. Not quite a bit, but I would like to see Fluffy Amers a little bit more decisive earlier on so they don't let that defender utility get away that late into the round.
And I love the mute jammer that the roamers of Outlast were able to rely on when when the death mark was going down, when the footstep tracker, the Enox of Jackal, being able to have that as kind of a safety net to waste more time. Perfection. I love to see little things like that to slow down Fluffy Amers. And I mean, the fact that they got theirs as well as wasting that amount of time, absolute cinema. But going into the second round here, we are going to be taken to the second floor, which is I love to see second floor and basement kind of flip-flop as the primary site. Usually I see second floor as a primary site, but now that the map has evolved and has been played more, second site as the secondary, and I'm curious to see how Fluffy Aimer starts to attack it.
Yeah, I'm really curious by this defense. You can see that there's two defenders on that first floor paired with the castle barricades being all around that bottom cargo area. So this kind of forces Fluffy Amers to address this position early on, or at least it makes them aware of it. Whether or not that's going to be simply phantom pressure, or if it's going to be pressure that's actually felt, this position by the defense is on purpose. It's set up around the entire defense on the actual site. And the problem is if Fluffy Amers, if they start to converge onto the site, even if they somehow do get control, those two players being set up by their overall defensive setup are going to be able to retake that site, kind of smush the defense, or I guess you could say the attack rather, onto that bomb site and essentially just choke them out. So Fluffy Amers, they need to be very cautious of these two roamers, these two off-site defenders away from the site.
A lot of the pressure is now going down on Nexus. We saw a double hard breach onto the IT wall to prevent any sort of bandit tricking from happening. And so Nexus is going to be figured out early on, but it's that control that you're talking about into Garage, able to open up the round. Recited, going to be the opening pick. That's the Thatcher. He did do his job earlier to open up the IT wall, but that's still a man and gun down. However, Monty is starting to make work do, but not enough to make it happen. Fluffy Amers down 2 members. Flurry of kills. Deity opening up the round and finding 3. Swifted able to shut down a little bit of support, but it's up to the Monty and Deity, the man of the hour. A double kill from the Montane, and Deity is now on a goose hunt. Exalt trying to find any sort of freebie as the plant goes down, but nothing found just yet other than a drone spotting him out. 40 seconds now on the clock. A very large mountain to climb. A lot of bullets going through his way, and a large, big boy with a shield staring right down the barrel. Deity shutting it down. Great comeback from Fluffy Amers.
A great read at that also. Fluffy reading that off-site presence, and they wanted to attack the bomb site in a relatively quick fashion. Util dumping, using those flashbangs to blind out and clear away, even though it did look a little bit worrisome losing 2 players early on because they were able to strike so fast. Those defenders were not able to rotate off of their positions, allowing for Fluffy Amers to retake that man count into an even 3v3. And by the time those offsite players were even aware that the site was taken, they were already had control. It was way too late. And now Outlast going back down to the exact, or back up rather, to the exact same bomb site, realizing that their overall hold was a great idea. That wasn't necessarily a problem with their strategy. They got 2 of the opening picks untraded until that Monty went into the site. They just need to play the situation a little bit better, need to hold off that aggression for the Fluffy Amers attack, which, I said that they needed to do, in a great retreat for Fluffy Amers.
Yeah, Outlast thinking that they know exactly what they need to do to adapt, like you're saying, and I love the space control from Fluffy Amers, and Outlast is not really giving themselves great options to fall back onto anything. They didn't play that space like you're saying, play that phantom pressure. So as Fluffy Amers use their utility, they can fall back a little bit. And I think that garage control was something that, they had a little bit of, but they didn't play around it as much. So Now that they know that Fluffy AIMERS loves IT Wall and loves blowing it up with 2 different hard breachers, maybe they can start to slow it down with this Legion and Smoke pickup from the side of Outlast, which I think is a great adaptation.
Both teams relatively approaching this round in the exact same way. We do see a Sledge come out this time around, but Fluffy AIMERS again talked about in that ban phase that they wanted to put a lot of emphasis on getting those external hard breach walls, and because of that, they're not only bringing a Thatcher but a Thermite and an Ace on top of it. Swifted though is eventually going to be able to be traded back, and now again an even 4v4 man count, but Outlast are not away. They're not able to run away with 2 picks untraded.
Well, and it's that one and done angle that's going to be giving them a lot more space and a lot more breathing room than we saw previously. Being able to shut down the opening picks from IT, that control is now going to be slowed down. Now, Fluffy AIMERS forced to try to find a new opening, and it might just be towards CC stairs, but Exalt, a quick snap to take down Rival. That's the Sledge completely off the board now, and see here, they're just trying to get a little bit more space, but Outlast is putting a lot more pressure on them than we've seen previously.
Yeah, you know, Fluffy AIMERS, they're not necessarily ready for this. They did have the players untraded, but because that Sledge droned himself in and wasn't in a complete isolated position, that allowed the Jaeger to get aggressive without that extra support on that attacking player, the kill went untraded. No other attacker even in the vicinity of where the Jaeger was playing, and now that also allows Outlast to continue to solidify their attacking or their defending positions and set up these crossfires, so when Fluffy AIMERS do get a pick, they're going to be able to trade it back.
The tip of the spear here is JJ on the Monty, getting a lot of pressure towards Electrical, but it's Emilio opening up the round, finally getting some sort of space into the round, but it's Recited, able to find 3, a quick flick onto Exalt. There's no way he's able to get that kill. I mean, a beautiful shot, but a gorgeous play from both sides. I feel like Fluffy AIMERS doing a great job of pulling attention towards the 2 members towards Electrical, having the red herring of the Monty, and then having that knife in the back to just completely secure the round.
Fluffy AIMERS have realized that when they attack, whether it be off-site positions if they want to try to clear and take map control, or if it's actually executing onto the site, they realize if they act fast, Outlast, they kind of struggle. Their comms start to mix, and they're not able to react fast enough, and that's exactly what we saw in that last round. So many attackers able to just slip through the lines of sights of those crossfires set up by the defense. And because all of it happened so quickly and with so much utility, again, bringing in those flashbangs, it kind of crowded up the comms and allowed Fluffy AIMERS to open up brand new gaps that weren't necessarily there before.
Now, Fluffy AIMERS looking towards the basement that they couldn't get a control of from previously. This time, though, they are going to be bringing the Ram. So, an interesting adaptation, Goose. I feel like last time you saw them on basement, their problem wasn't getting the verticality down and attacking basement through that. It was the timing that it took for them to play the roam clear. What do you think?
I agree 100%. And now, Outlast, realizing that they're going to give them a completely new problem, putting a player all the way over by main lobby. He's not going to be trying to play for picks. He's not going to try to kill one of the players. If he does perhaps get a Fluffy AIMERS player, it will be all the better. But he's simply trying to play aggressive, and he does get that player, and he's able to run back on top of it.
And of all members, it's the Jackal going to be shut down. And now the only roam clear that they really have to be able to attack this Vigil and Oryx, who's still tucked up into near servers and IT that we saw previously, is resided on the Deimos. But you can't Deimos track a Vigil who still has the wub-wubs around him. So that's going to be a big issue for Fluffy AIMERS to try to control, but it doesn't seem like they really care.
Outlast, we're really good at just re-aggressing, trying to get another pick, but it's Ron to get one onto Emilio. And now Fluffy AIMERS, they're struggling. They're trying to find any picks whatsoever. But the Mute Jammers, the Roamers that got rid of that Jackal early on, has completely removed so much intel gain for Fluffy AIMERS. And now they're not even aware of the 2 players upstairs. But JJ, the man himself, is able to eventually get one back.
But the spoiler that has yet to show its fangs just yet. Is Exalt still tucked into servers, ready to strike when needed. And there it is, taking down JJ, now able to lurk around. Ron, though, trying to find some feet, but nothing given. It seems Fluffy AIMERS, instead of trying to play their own clear, they're forcing OUTLAST to play their own game, saying, hey, we're going to take over the first floor, we're going to ignore the roamers and just try to take site, try to kill the people that are on site and drop it down. But it doesn't matter when Nexus is dropping the Fluffy AIMERS attack like flies. Here comes Recited, trying to open it up. Swifted, going to be the first one to be taken down, but 12 HP, not enough to face a Mossberg head-on. Ron, able to close it down. And another great basement hold from OUTLAST.
Yeah, it was a great basement hold on that. And a quick little statistic. Both of the attacking rounds Fluffy AIMERS won was all the way in control. For OUTLAST, their 2 defending round 1 was all the way on basement. Both teams only having success on one site in general. And this is not only going to be a problem for both teams, but rather for OUTLAST, because as I talked about before in that pre-show, Nighthaven Labs, on paper, is one of the most defender-sided maps throughout the entire pool we currently have, aside from Lair. The theory does translate into actual aggression in play, but we've yet to see that. So, as of now, Nighthaven Labs is going to continue to be that castle, that stronghold of a map, and Fluffy AIMERS only winning 2 bomb sites. If they can get another one, that's fine, but if they get a 4-2 half going into their defense, that's nothing to really hold your heads down. And if finally OUTLAST are going to bring us to a bomb site on that mid floor that we've yet to see before.
Yeah, able to shut OUTLAST out of their own secondary site has been quite gorgeous to see. And to be honest, I feel like we're about to see maybe a 4-2 half in the respects of Fluffy AIMERS. If they aren't able to hold down this first floor like they have been with the basement, they are going to be seeing a Ying this time on Fluffy AIMERS. So a little bit more of an explosive take towards first floor, maybe ignoring the second floor like we saw them try to do with the basement take of ignoring second floor, just kind of playing site, maybe explode it, get the bomb down and play post. But it's these Fenrir's, these Legion traps, the smoke Toxic Babes, and the Capcan traps that are going to be playing spoiler for them.
Yeah, it's these really early on aggressive players from OUTLAST, especially on maps that you have to really roam clear. The only 2 times that Fluffy AIMERS won a bomb site was on a bomb site that you can necessarily just directly attack. You don't really have to worry about that whole entire roam game, but here's Resisted.
Oh my god.
Gets it. That's a huge pick, but eventually it is answered back onto Rival.
Amelia, though, opening it up a little bit more, taking down Ace. Candela in hand, trying to clear a little bit more of the balcony, but it's JJ taking down Ron. Quickly traded out from Nexus on the opposite side. Dropping the bomb, though, but now they find themselves in a 1v3 Deity. Good, making the dirty work happen, finding 2 and closing out the round. Now OUTLAST maybe seeing that 4-2 become reality.
There is also potentially a reality, now that we are going back to command and servers, that Fluffy AIMERS could take the winning 4-2 half on the attack, and that's definitely not something you want to see if you're either a player or a fan of OUTLAST. And again, it's just Fluffy AIMERS really dealing with these problem players, whether it be a presence of a player or if it is a wall, maybe an entire defensive hold outside of the site. They make sure not only they deal with it early on, but they use all of their utility, all of their player base and drone economy to make sure that they get control of it and deal with that problem early on. In rounds where they're not able to deal with the problem early on and where those defenders are able to rotate back down to the site, we see Fluffy AIMERS not only have no success, but they actually lose the round. OUTLAST, they need to do a lot more on that early round. Make sure that Fluffy AIMERS can't get that control. They need to contest, even though this is a site that I've said time and time again, you could really directly rush into the site. OUTLAST needs to make sure that they hold off that pressure, that early on aggression right outside the doors of the bomb site.
Goose, I think that you're speaking like a disciple right now. A fast take is maybe what we're about to see here. The Finka, the Blitz, the Ash, and the Ying. Potentially, Ying, maybe exactly what you're talking about. Trying to find I think they might have a gap here. They only have the Legion Mines to really give them any sort of information towards the extremities. JJ lurking towards a man, Emilio as well. It seems like they're getting in position here to just make that snap call happen. Open up these windows fast, but it's going to be Nexus trying to open it up. He's going to be taken down, actually, and here comes the attack. Exalt, though, doing a great job of holding it all off from the other end, taking down that 3-man core of the Blitz and the Finga and the Thermite. And so now it's up to these strategies. The other members that are kind of playing insert going to be left up to be the main breach. JJ trying to find something, and it's going to be one, but going to be taken down from the smoke, and Exalt from the other side. And now Exalt finding 4 kills, looking for the ace. A 1v3 for Emilio, 1 charge in hand. The R4C able to have a lot of time to rotate back to CC stairs, maybe try and get a freebie, but some spams are going to be giving it away. Exalt holding the door, wanting the ace. Can he get it? Slowing it down just a little bit too much to make it feel a little bit in their head, and there's the swing from Exalt, finding the ace. And Outlast winning a round that's not basement, able to even it up to a 3-3 split.
Talk about a great opening match for Season 7. Not only is this a very close contending match, a lot closer than I thought it was going to be, but on top of that, we get our very first ace in the very first game. Just a lot of excitement, but again, Outlast finally able to find a defending round 1 on that, I believe it's called, control bomb site. That is a absolute big round, not only for specifically the player on the side of Exalt, but Outlast as a whole. They also had to take a breath of fresh air. They didn't have to go down 4-2. They do get an even 3-3 split. They fixed a lot of their mistakes and were able to finally deal with that early aggression, even with all of those players doubling up. Eventually, that double up did lead to the downfall of AIMERS in that round.
10 seconds left.
Now the question lies, is Outlast able to get more attacking rounds than a Fluffy AIMERS were able to? Maybe, I think if Outlast is able to get the secret of how to take down Fluffy AIMERS basement, this could be an absolute tragedy for Fluffy AIMERS. They had a great attacking half, but maybe Outlast is just the goats of attack as well. We'll just have to see. Finka being on the board with the Blitz and the Ram. But not a lot of roam clear for the side of Outlast. And we do see some roaming happening from Fluffy AIMERS. A lot of space being taken up on the first floor, and that space might just be taken up with Resided finding the opening pick. It's going to be quickly traded out from Nexus, but that's the Ram off the board.
Not only that, but the Captain really is going to be already able to use! Oh my god! How does that happen? And again, Outlast, even though it has been solidified this fast start. 6 players dead in the first minute. They know exactly where they are.
It's Blitz looking for more blood, and Diddy forced all the way back to the site. Wasn't able to do anything on the roam, but he's able to get something down on the site, dropping Nexus. And now it's a low HP Blitz versus the world. Towards Exo trying to peep into sight, but it's a very, very scary crew that they're gonna find. An impact being thrown out, but the damage is not gonna be landed. He's just gonna be trying to play his game, maybe trying to get a freebie towards JJ, but I think that this is just kind of playing the foreplay of the end here. Ace hasn't been able to find anything just yet, rotating back to get the bomb. Not a lot of pressure put onto the Fluffy AIMERS defense just yet. And a beautiful shot. Wow.
Just a nice shot by Didi. Overall, a really nice round from Fluffy AIMERS. Outlast, not only did they get aggressive, but they continued to push their foot down and down on that gas pedal. And eventually, they just overstepped their welcome. You could see, especially in that play of Blitz, not even realizing that a zombie was on those stairs. And again, Outlast just going a little bit too far in that rush with just not enough intel, and that's what allowed, not only with the individual capability and the IQ of the Fluffy AIMERS players, but it gave them an opportunity to, with that presence of them not knowing where those Fluffy AIMERS defenders were. On top of that, they were able to use that lack of knowledge, that lack of intel, to punish the players for overstepping, overgoing in the lines of sight set up by Fluffy AIMERS. And it's one of those rounds where you could say, Outlast, you almost had it, you just didn't play a little bit of those micro situations perfectly, and now you're going to get to reapproach it on a bomb site that they still had difficulty, keep in mind, on the defense.
Second floor gonna be something that they, it seems that they don't really care about the roam clear at all, and I wonder if that's a flaw that Fluffy AIMERS might try to take advantage of. Maybe play a little bit more into the roam to dissuade these rushes from happening. It seemed it worked in the last round. Unfortunately, with the second floor, it's a little bit more difficult to do. You can really just kind of play spoiler upstairs and maybe flank a little bit late, but at that point, you're just baiting your teammates. Outlast, bringing a similar approach to what Fluffy AIMERS brought to the second floor take.
Yeah, this is also just, entirely a very difficult site to defend, because essentially with the cross angles of Connector paired with Blue and then that cargo situation, it kind of puts the bomb site, or the two bomb sites rather, disconnected. If you can get a push over by cargo and Blue, you can kind of disconnect the A bomb site completely from the players over on B, and then the same thing could be said for that IT connected position. So, if Outlast if they're able to disconnect these players, disconnect and separate these two bomb sites, it's going to be easier to pick off these defenders, get those trades, and eventually dwindle down that man count into hopefully what could be their very first attacking round win.
Oh my God.
But there goes the guns on the side of Fluffy.
Wow, the two members that were able to lurk into the building shut down completely. Exalt finally finding some blood for his teammates, but now that he has one on his hands, he has 4 more remaining. Nitro going to be whipping, a little bit of damage going through. Has a couple of big charges to play around as well to heal himself up. He's finding 1 kill, has the LMG in hand, and a couple drones. So there is a possibility, especially if JJ gives up a free kill like that, but Deity is going to help out his homie, shut it down, and allow JJ to keep his KD looking fresh.
I talked about how this was a very competitive and close game, and then Fluffy AIMERS says, nope, we're just going to start shooting everybody on Outlast. And again, that problem of Outlast over pushing their welcome, pushing onto these certain sites or these certain positions around the map without getting that drone utility, without using their economy to their max. They're simply not aware of these lines of sight, these crossfires being set up by Fluffy AIMERS, and because of it, they're just kind of walking into the guns of Fluffy AIMERS. I don't like to use that phrase a whole lot because it's not that simple, but Outlast, they're really making this defense for Fluffy AIMERS really simple. Outlast, if they make a noise, if they make a rumbling and Fluffy AIMERS are able to identify where they're pushing from, they can really identify that Outlast is going to continue to ham their head on that wall in that position. They're not going to do a split push. They're not going to try to regroup, maybe retread onto a different position around the site. If you see an Outlast push, that is where they're going to be pushing throughout the entire round. So Outlast, they need to do a little bit more of that split theory that NA has trouble dealing with if they want to have just enough success on their attack.
Or if they want to continue, but hitting their head against a wall that they've been shut down towards, maybe getting some more utility or some sort of information to help them as they get that push in. Last round, I felt like they had a good idea of getting a couple of members into places like Connector and Electrical, but once they had that positioning, they did nothing with it, right? For the Grimbees, I love to see as a little bit of a change. The Bravo drones as well. Maybe that will support their pushes that they've been so desperately trying to find. But so far, they actually found Decided on a, it seems a spawn peak, and shutting him down to 3 HP and no heals from the side of Fluffy AIMERS. So Outlast already had a decent advantage going into this tertiary site.
Yeah, Rival's going to be caught in between a rock and a hard place. They know exactly where he is. Somewhat is disconnected, but he's able to run away. And not only that, Decided on 3 health is able to get 2! What is going on? Outlast is completely falling apart on their attack, and Fluffy AIMERS, they're taking advantage of it.
I mean, Fluffy AIMERS doesn't even have to work for anything. It just seems like Outlast is giving them freebies, like you were saying. It hurts to say, but that's what it looks like. Fluffy AIMERS now having a great man advantage, having a great time wastage. But Nexus able to finally find one, but I think that might have just been a freebie that Fluffy AIMERS gave them. And now it's up to the fight up first floor. Ron doing a great job of supporting that verticality gameplay, taking down JJ. And now suddenly, with a minute remaining, they're able to work at a man advantage here, but it's actually going to be an even bigger advantage. Exo finding Deity. So now it's up to Recited, who has 3 HP, and Rival, who's completely disconnected from his teammate, to shut down the rest of this attack.
The thing for Rival is he has a lot of help. He has the IQ, but it's just not enough. Now it's all Recited all alone in the 1v3.
Lot on his shoulders. I mean, kind of. It's going to be a lot of pressure on his shoulders. The Deimos was shut down! No way. This guy has found 3 kills with 3 HP, but 2 more if he wants to make it known. The plant going down. Ron's going to be the one for that. Unable to find the one until the plant's going down. So now, really difficult task. A breach charge set down on the bomb as well, but Ron is going to be forced to take some damage on his way out. A close angle from Nexus is going to be able to take down Recited, shut down any dreams of Fluffy AIMERS winning on a tertiary site. Beautiful attacking round here from OUTLAST to recover something that felt absolutely lost.
A lot of gap spotting from OUTLAST, spotting the lack of player position, the exact positions where Fluffy AIMERS were not playing. And OUTLAST said, we'll just retake those positions right there for you. And on top of that, just Recited being the star player, essentially the rookie for Fluffy AIMERS, almost going big, but it simply just was not enough. OUTLAST, overall, in my opinion, that was a round that they took away from Fluffy AIMERS. Obviously, you can see that they were at a 3v5. That was something where they had to aggress. They had to take back those picks. But it was the gaps that actually led to their success, that led to that round win for OUTLAST, and a glimmer of hope has now appeared on the attack.
A little bit of the glimmer. They do now have to face the basement once again. What seems to be just such a terrifying sight. I mean, we knew this going into it. We've played the basement holds in solo queue and things like that. It's quite the beast to attack. Not even the best teams can take it off of, you know, the other best teams. We see here, it looks like OUTLAST kind of taking notes of what was successful previously, using that shield to gain some space. But this time with the Monty, maybe slowing it down a little bit, not playing the rush that they had, but the gaps that they were able to play off of was the success. And if they're able to play through it well, maybe they might be able to make something work.
Doing a great job of just, again, doing those basics, getting the hard breach walls open, opening the soft wall. Shotgun from Exalt, I really like this. You know, there's always that idea that if you're on the defense, you're going to be swinging an attacker. You're not going to be expecting a shotgun, so you're going to be swinging a little bit closer, giving the advantage to that player on the side of the shotgun. So it's just one of those 3 plays that could perhaps work out. But this time around, OUTLAST doing a lot more of that due diligence, making sure they do their homework before they actually aggress and try to take these positions around the site.
I actually love the adaptation here from Fluffy AIMERS as well. A lot of them are on site. I believe it's only Recited who's playing towards the first floor, but it's on the stairs, right? So now OUTLAST is taking a little bit of time to roam clear things that actually don't even exist. No roamers on the side of Fluffy AIMERS. So it's just a full turtle. Those EMPs unable to find where the Kaid and bandits are. So that's going to be trumping down OUTLAST's attack a little bit. But Ace, he snuck into Animus with his big shield. I mean, he's making a lot of noise. The first Nitro is actually enough to get him and his teammate Emilio able to trade out one as well. Fluffy AIMERS now at an advantage that surely they can't lose this time. They might just be facing match points here soon. Recited, able to find one more with the Nitro. Now it's up to Exalt. Shotgun, big old pistol on his hip, able to find Recited towards that lurk. And now it's up to him to find some sort of pierce into the turtle that Fluffy AIMERS has done a great job of setting up.
He does have the intel, but a 1v4 on probably what is one of the most difficult sites to attack. With a shotgun, it's going to be a very tall task to ask for, and it's going to be JJ, the team captain, to eventually finish him off. But again, I talked about getting those walls open early on was so important for them, and we saw in that round the butterfly effect. Because they were not able to get that double wall onto the site open, they were forced to funnel over by I believe it was called test tubes, and because of that, just like you saw there, the C4 was able to not only get 2, but eventually turned into 3 kills. So again, small misplays like those could lead to absolute catastrophe.
Yeah, and it seems like the star players for Outlast are just unable to find any early impact frags. Exalt we see here on the scoreboard at 14 and 8. But how many of these frags are opening up the rounds? How many of these are maybe entry kills or kills that grant them a lot of space? To me, it seems like he's getting these frags once the dust starts to settle and he gets kind of the freebies that Fluffy Aimers are giving him, but nothing that really leads them to success.
Wow, you just call it Zola Bader. That is
Whoa,
crazy.
whoa, whoa.
you just gave the perfect analytical description of, yeah, he just kind of baits his teammates. And I think that is a really good way to say he's playing these very aggressive operators that you would usually see an attacker on an entry position play, but a lot of the time, the last couple of players left alive, Exalt is one of those. He's going to be falling back onto that Finca position, and hopefully, and we can't really necessarily say it's all his fault. At the end of the day, his teammates, his support players need to work around him, drone him in, give him that intel, give him that backline support that eventually can snowball into those entry picks, and that's why we're not seeing those entry picks. We're not seeing those drones. We're not seeing that intel from the drone economy on the side of Outlast, and because of it, we're seeing the lack of opening picks, and that's why we see Outlast fall down to be such huge man deficit round after round, and they've only won one of them, and you only get 1 to 2 trick rounds in a game, especially against a team like the caliber of Fluffy Aimers.
And now we're facing, once again, that second floor hold that Fluffy Aimers were quite successful at previously. And it doesn't seem like Outlast really has that great of a game plan going into it, right? We have the Finca once again, something that Exalt was able to get a lot of frags on previously, but like you're saying, they were end round, nothing to open up the round. There haven't been those first bloods converted into a lot of space, converted into the round. It's, well, let's kind of play default, let's kind of poke around. If Fluffy Aimers gives us a freebie from some random like spawn peek or run out that they do, then we'll take it and then we'll continue off of that. Fluffy Aimers doing a great job, other than, you know, round 9 where they lost 3 to 5. They've been doing a great job of keeping their man advantage healthy.
Yeah, that is a perfect description, that Fluffy Aimers, they realize the value of keeping the man out. They see a player, maybe they're an isolated attacker, they don't want to aggress too hard because they want to continue to have that man count, but the man count for Outlast continues to dwindle. Yet another opening round pick goes to the side of Fluffy Aimers, and another one, make it a triple!
Why not? The boss G finding one quickly, gonna be shredded out finally from Nexus. Swifted able to get another kill, another freebie. Fluffy loves to kind of give these freebies a little bit once the round seems over. A 2v3 now, something that's maybe a little bit more possible, especially when it's the Yings with these Candelas and a Dash with the R4C. They're able to maybe start dragging out. Something might be able to cook. Swifted with one more Candela to work with. Some space towards and pressure towards the site, but nothing found just yet. It's a big wall here from Fluffy Aimers, though. A bit of an iron curtain to dissuade them from pushing in, though. Nexus lurking into IT, trying to find anything that is more free than what they've already had, but Fluffy Aimers, they've learned from it. They don't want to lose like they did on the first floor, but Nexus is going to force them the issue. Deity going to be taken down, and now the man advantage has quickly dwindled. Outlast, trying to do something a little bit more here. One more drone work happening, getting the information, but nothing found just yet. It is going to be Rival spotted behind the Kiba barrier, forcing him to go a little bit aggressive. But nothing from Outlast to give him something free. I'm going to play it slow. Smoke going down, a couple going down. Amelia, though, taking out Swifted on the aggression. Nexus trading it out, but 4 HP. Versus Rival, this is scary. Going to be going to the other site, tapping the bomb, threatening the defuse, forcing Rival to start to sprint, baiting it out, but he sticks. Bros don't fake. The cross going through. Rival doesn't have the line of sight. Nexus can play time here beautifully, and he does! He finds the headshot on Rival with 4 HP and a dream. Outlast brings us the last round of regulation.
A great job from Nexus isolating that Azami from Rival all the way in the other bomb site. I've talked about time and time again how that bomb site is so difficult to defend because a lot of the time attackers taking that IT and Raptors position are able to essentially just separate all of the defenders from each other in the opposite bomb sites, and that's exactly what they did with these last two players. Fluffy AIMERS, they wanted to try to set up a crossfire to shut down those last two attackers, but it was actually that crossfire that led to their eventual downfall. Fluffy AIMERS bringing us back to the exact same bomb site, saying that they just played that last round, that last 1v1 a little bit poorly, that they liked the overall idea of what they had on this bomb site, and they want to try it again.
I mean, Goose, I have to agree with Fluffy AIMERS here. Like, it should be illegal that we're losing a 2-5 man advantage. It's 2v5, guys. We cannot be losing sites like that. We should already be done. We should be getting our McDonald's. I want my Big Mac. Let's get out of here. So, going back to the second floor, I feel like this is a good take. They just need to play slower, right? They need to play that man advantage that we were boasting about for them previously, and then they immediately give it away, and once again, recited with some run out, shut down swiftly by Swifted. And this might be the momentum that Outlast needs to bring us into overtime.
One more round. All they need is one round. The problem with that, though, is because they picked defense in regulation to start off, if we do see an overtime, out of the 3 rounds, Outlast is going to have to attack 2 of them, being the majority. And on paper, if they do win this round, sure, it will be an even round count, but a lot of times when we see even halves for attack and defense, the defense does still come out on top in overtime. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Outlast, they still have such a great defense. They got that IT wall open. They're trying to get every avenue open possible, and Ace is able to escape with life. Just 37 HP being aided by that Finka boost.
Yeah, that Finka boost might be enough to allow Ace to be able to tank a little bit more and grant a lot more space for Outlast to play off of. So now on the Ash instead of the Finka this time, might be able to buy some space. That baiting that we were talking about before might be going to Null. Speaking of Null, that Nitro Cell nullified completely by the shield. Taking one bullet to the foot, however, from the Vector is going to push him back to 14 HP, which is a little scary. Last though, slowing it down and once again letting Fluffy AIMERS make a mistake like they've done so many times on this defensive half.
You know, that problem with Outlast, as soon as they actually go onto a push, if they don't have success, they continue to push onto it, but Swifted continues to have success, and Deity finds 2.
And Rival picks up 1 as well during the push, while all the fire and flames are happening. Crouching with the Deagle, able to find 1. Amelia, though, down wrong, someone that was pushing all by himself, so now it's Nexus with the Dream that's quickly shut down by a flank from Deity. GG's in chat, and honestly, a kind of questioning performance from Fluffy AIMERS.
A lot of those rounds, Fluffy AIMERS just gave away that man count, gave away that man count advantage. I believe it was 2 to 3 where they started off with a 5v3 advantage and eventually lost the round. Fluffy AIMERS, especially coming in with that new player being recited, we had a lot of question marks. Without leaking any information, I can tell you though, but Recited was a player that Fluffy AIMERS absolutely wanted. They needed him so bad. They made it known that they wanted on his team. There's a lot of question marks around him, but being the main kill leader and entry fragger for Fluffy AIMERS, that question mark is no more. We know exactly why they wanted that player so much, not only having so much effect on this map, but having the most impact out of any player in Fluffy AIMERS, being the player.
Yeah, as dominant as Recited looked, I will say a lot of question marks now. If I'm a Fluffy AIMERS fan, I'm putting a little bit of worry going into this XGS Swiss stage, right? A lot of dropped rounds for no reason. A lot of BGS finals, this seemed a lot sloppier than what we saw in that best of 5 earlier in the week. So, I mean, they looked good on the rounds where they had that dominance. These attacking rounds that they found in the first half looked phenomenal. Looked like a team that I was familiar with. The defense, maybe a little bit worrisome, but Outlast, a team that I know we kind of talked about it before the match, maybe at a little bit more of a disadvantage due to, you know, a fresh roster, looked absolutely phenomenal, especially against a team like Fluffy AIMERS. So a lot of hope in this Group A. It's going to be a little bit more competitive than I was originally thinking.
Yeah, that was a great showing if you are not only a player, but also a fan of Outlast, but they don't get any points. Even though this was a great showing, you still lost. And you still have those teams like Makers that are going to put up much more of a competition than Fluffy AIMERS did today. And again, yeah, you need to be a little bit worried about Fluffy AIMERS, but notoriously, they have started very slow in opening seasons for, you know, E3, BGS. It's, you know, what they're essentially known for. The question is, though, will they be able to heat up going into the later matches of group stage leading into playoffs? But again, a great showing from both teams, but it's Fluffy AIMERS to pull it out eventually.
Yeah, and with that being said, that is going to be the end of our first round of XGS, but we do have more games later on. We're going to be taking a quick break, but once we're back, we're going to be seeing SSG Academy versus the Mormon Battalion, and it's still your boy and Goose on the desk, so cannot wait. Maybe get some water, stretch your legs. We'll be right back.